I guess this is episode 2. I think we're on episode 3.
This is episode 3.
Oh, okay.
In fact,
okay. I scrolled down too far.
That's all right. Welcome to the Layer Seekers podcast about gaming and being a geek by two middle-aged geek dads. I am David Moore, and I've been pulled into an alternate reality, running on the edge.
And I'm Ken Newquist, and I just ran 5 miles. So if I fall asleep during the podcast, that's why. I'm once again trying to do the 10K training regime. I think I started doing that, I think, during season 1, if I remember correctly. But I'm making another crack at it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, you did at least hike Philmont.
I did. I mean, that was why I was doing it.
It's not like you were just sitting on your couch, not doing anything. You've been out and active.
I have. And so, and I did stop it because my knees were starting to bother me. And then I went to physical therapy and I fixed my knees. So I'm better, stronger, faster, not $1 million worth, but definitely better. So I now know how to prepare for running, go running, and come back from running and recover from running.
Good.
All of which, because I'm 50, takes like 3 hours. But
yes. Yeah.
Stay healthy, folks.
Yeah. I'm working on that myself. Speaking of running, I've been doing a lot of edge running lately in Cyberpunk 2077. I try. I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077. I mentioned it last episode that I was playing. Still enjoying it, but I've kind of put it down right now because I don't want to finish it. Like, I'm anticipating what's the Western game? Red Dead Redemption. I'm anticipating a Red Dead Redemption-esque ending, and I don't want my main character to die,
Yes.
That's just the way I feel about it. That's just the way I feel about it. I will probably finish it, but I've also been prepping for a big class that I'm going to be teaching at work, so I kind of put it down the last few days. Having put it down, I've started looking at streaming stuff, and you've started looking at streaming stuff.
Yes.
And so we've got a list of things that are out now and things that are coming up that are of interest to us. One of which both of us are interested in, which is The Sandman on Netflix. I have seen, I believe, everything. They released like 2 smaller episodes right a little while after they released the initial series.
Okay.
And so I did catch those. So I don't know if they've had anything past that. One of them was when... did you ever read the original comics series or graphic novels?
I've read parts of it, and I think I came in late. And so I don't know that I actually read it like from the very beginning, because as I'm watching and I'm trying to, it's like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously I read these in college, right? So this is like 92, 93. And I certainly I have a couple of like the graphic novels on my shelf, and they haven't quite lined up with what I remember from Sandman. So I'm thinking I didn't.
Got it. I mean, I read a decent amount of them, but there are so many.
Yes.
Like the omnibus is a good 1.5 inches thick, and I think there's 2 volumes of that. So it's not a thin amount of content. So the later of the episodes is one where the cats dream. I don't know if you've read that short, but like,
no, I haven't.
Okay. I won't spoil it for you, but we get an insight into the mind of cats in that one.
That's brilliant.
And it's really good. It's kind of that one's kind of a side story to the main Sandman story, but it still deals with dreaming. From what I remember of it, and mind you, I have also probably last read it when I was in college, which would be 30 plus years ago. The feelings of the Netflix series echo very well with what I remember of the comics.
Yes, so I would completely agree.
I think they did a really good job. The character, the main actor who plays Sandman, I think that they picked pretty well. I don't know how he would be as an actor in another role, but he plays the 90s emo goth dream or goth dream of the comics very well. I think they chose well, and I like I like
yeah.
Death as well.
Death, I think she was great. So the episode I just watched was the one that introduced Death. I've been savoring them. Like I'm only watching them at night because it seems like wrong to watch them in the middle of the day.
Daytime show. No,
yeah, it's more of a nighttime show, right?
Yeah.
So I'm savoring all of them because I just don't want to binge the whole thing in one big sitting. So, but yeah, it's bringing, and it's also it's like bringing me back to like happy times in college. So I'm definitely savoring them. It's like drinking a nice cup of cocoa.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. I think I'd be curious to see, and if people have different experiences who didn't like basically grow up with Sandman, like I'm curious as to people for whom this is their introduction. What do they think of it? But
yeah, I'd be very interested.
I think they nailed it. It's got that mythic quality that I loved about Sandman, and the visuals are reflecting. The art in Sandman always was very different from your other mainstream comic book titles, right? Like it spawned the whole like Vertigo subtitle within, or sub company within DC. Gotcha. And so it was a very different aesthetic, and I think they've retained that aesthetic for the series.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, shortly after starting to watch it, I had posted to our little Slack group that we talk on that seeing this, it brings me back to college. And if people are watching this brand new who are of college age or high school age, I see a new goth wave coming. Because it's just it really is evocative to me.
Yes.
How good that part is. Well, and we also, like, this isn't even on our list, but they're doing a remake of Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, I heard about that.
So there's all of that as well. What was the other thing that I was thinking about? Oh, it was also vampire related. A year ago, I was talking with Erin, my wife, who was like, what kind of games would you want me to run that you would play in? And she'd like, I'd like you to rerun, your vampire game from back in college. And I was like, that would be cool, but I just don't feel that I could run the same game 30 years later. I'm just not in that headspace. Right. And then I watched Sandman. So I'm a little more in that headspace. Honestly, there's like a direct line that you could draw between me watching Sandman to me picking up Cyberpunk Red to me playing Cyberpunk 2077 again. Because Sandman and I played Shadowrun, but Cyberpunk 2077 was the same era, or Cyberpunk 2020 was the same era. What's on your list of things that you're interested in?
Guilty pleasure time. I couldn't probably get any further from Sandman if you tried. The new season of Cobra Kai came out, season 5, which astounds me that we're up to season 5. And
Aaron informed me.
Yes, so I mean it's good in a guilty pleasure sort of way. Like, I mean, it's two middle-aged guys figuring out what the hell it is they're doing, right? Like this rivalry from way back, and like realizing like everybody made mistakes, and lots of karate, right? And then just melodrama and just lots of random fist fights, random karate fights all over California. But
gotcha.
It also season 4. So I'm watching season 4 and I'm feeling kind of lost because they're introducing characters I don't know. And then I Googled it. I'm like, wait, there was a Karate Kid 3? I had no idea there was a Karate Kid 3. Now, apparently it wasn't very good.
Which one was that? They did a Karate Kid 1, Karate Kid 2. He went to Okinawa. Is that Karate Kid 2? And I think there was a Karate Kid 3 that I know I did not see.
So it still has Daniel as like the main character, and like the like evil corporate guy shows up, and I don't know. I feel like I need to watch Karate Kid 3, even though I know it's going to be terrible, to help inform season 5 of Cobra Kai. But I do feel like they're redeeming those actors, right? Like they're giving them some good stuff to chew on. And it's like I've seen a couple of people online saying I thought that Karate Kid 3 was irredeemable and Cobra Kai season 5 is redeeming it. I'm like, wow, that's kind of high praise. So
yeah,
that I will binge, right? Like, I don't know, maybe we talked last time I need to put my comic books away. Maybe I'll just like binge Cobra Kai and put my comic books away.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually heard similar things about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus, saying it redeems Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Anakin in the prequels for Star Wars. So, yeah, it's possible to have years and years later redeeming something to redeem an earlier movie. Aaron is very into Cobra Kai and is like, why aren't you into Cobra Kai? You constantly play No More Kings, which is a band. I don't know if they're still together, but they did a song called Sweep the Leg.
Yes, I remember that.
And it had the actors who played Daniel Russo and I can't remember the bad guy's name now.
I know what you mean.
Yes. It had both of them in it. And it's like a music video of season 1, as far as I can tell, of Cobra Kai. And I would not be surprised if that music video ended up being the inspiration to make Cobra Kai initially. Because the initial season of Cobra Kai, I think, was like just a web series sort of thing, or very
it was
low budget.
It was on YouTube Red.
Yeah. And
of all the things.
Yeah, and I saw several episodes of that back then. So yeah, I really love the video. I love the concept of them being in the future, and then for some reason I just haven't latched on to the series itself.
I mean, you're in the goth cyberpunk headspace. I am. I don't know that your head might explode if you watch Cobra Kai right now.
I am. It would be well, I mean, because the original, I'm pretty sure the original Karate Kid came out when I was in high school.
Sounds about right.
So that would be like, here, let me revert to college me. And then I start moving forward again. And then I have to make a U-turn all the way back to high school me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it hasn't grabbed me. Stranger Things hasn't grabbed me, but it's grabbed a lot of people that I know them and like some of the stuff that they watch. I actually have Stranger Things on my list of things to watch when I have a long period of time to watch things. But
the Karate Kid came out in 1984.
Yep, so high school.
So, really?
Yeah, first year of high school for me.
Because I was in 6th grade.
I graduated
closer in age than that.
I graduated in 89.
I graduated in 90.
Okay, so actually it would be
maybe middle school.
It would be 8th grade. It would be 8th grade.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, because I was in 8th grade in 86, although now we're completely digressing. But I remember Karate Kid 2 came out in high school, and that was like the date movie.
Yeah, it was a unfortunate date movie, probably, because it wasn't I mean, maybe it was okay for high school, but like from what I remember it wasn't a great movie.
It was not, but it had like the power of love, right?
It
like
did have the power of love.
Song never ended.
Yeah. Was that where that song was?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like, I think.
Okay.
I'm just riffing right now. I did not do research.
Okay.
But in any case, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, eh?
Yes. Cyberpunk Edge Runners just came out today as we're recording, September 13th. I have to confess I have already mainlined all 10 episodes, and it was good. It was good on a number of levels. I liked the story. It was a very cyberpunk dystopian sort of story, but also because I've played Cyberpunk 2077 so much, they use a lot of like the heads up display for a phone call, the heads up display for someone hacking into a network. Some of the locations, the physical locations in Cyberpunk 2077 are mirrored in Edge Runners, like the layouts of certain apartments, the layouts of certain blocks of buildings. They even reuse the sounds of phone calls in Cyberpunk 2077. They use the same ring sounds in Edge Runners. So that's one level, but I really enjoy the characters. The characters are believable. they don't always make the best choices, but they make the choices that you would expect them to. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, you know that that's not the right way to go, but you're going to make that choice anyway because you have a flaw, you know, and so you're going to make that choice. And it's been a journey. I won't spoil it, but it's good. I would say watch it, especially if you're into anything cyberpunk.
I don't need to sleep this weekend.
Yeah, you don't need to. No, you're fine.
Speaking of not sleeping.
Yeah.
I just discovered this earlier. So Prey came out on Hulu. I watched it. It's an excellent Predator movie. It's set during like the Old West times. It follows a Native American. I can't remember the specific tribe.
I've heard really good things about it.
It's been about a month, but basically, like, there's these rites of passage that they're going through, and there's a female main character who's great, and they're dealing with, like, I think it was French trappers, and so there's multiple overlapping themes in terms of the Native American characters needing to prove themselves by going on a hunt, and then meanwhile, you have a predator show up, and what's he doing? Well, he's proven himself by going on a hunt.
Yep.
So I would say it's the best Predator movie since Predator.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, there are parts of Predator 2 that I enjoy because it's ridiculously over the top.
Right.
And Danny Glover is like a badass action hero. like, you know, I remember from like Lethal Weapon, he's like, I'm too old for this, right? And in Predator 2, he's just like, he's got his Schwarzenegger on, right?
Yeah, he's not quite Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's got tenacity.
He's got tenacity, and
most people didn't. Yeah.
He did not have that world weariness
that
you kind of came to know from like Lethal Weapon, right? In this movie, he's just kind of like, he's showing up and he's kicking butt and taking names and what have you. So I certainly can appreciate parts of Predator 2 and some of the other ones. But here's the thing: all of the Predator movies and Aliens versus Predator are currently streaming on Hulu.
Oh,
so.
Okay.
I love my creature features. I'm not above going back and watching bad creature features just because, you know.
There are more Predator movies than I realized, especially if you count like the AVP movies as well.
Yes.
That's a lot. And I didn't, you know, it's like I didn't realize that it's kind of like direct to video release sort of for several of them, from what I understand.
Yeah, certainly Alien versus Predator Requiem is got to be, I don't know. It's a toss up between that and The Predator as the worst of the movies.
Okay.
But we should have Chris Johnson on. I believe he ranked these in our Slack channel, telling us about like which ones were the worst.
I do remember now. He did do that. Yes. The author we both know of is Scott Sigler, who actually did write an Alien novel.
Yes, it was good.
Alien Phalanx.
Yes.
What's funny is he wrote shortly after Prey came out, he tweeted that watching all these Predator movies, Predators kind of suck.
They do,
because they all die at the end. You know, that's not really a spoiler. You know, and so I responded to him. It's like, no. You're looking at this all wrong. This is survivor bias. We only get the movies made about predators when they fail. There's no one left alive when they succeed.
Exactly. So I like that. I've been reading this analytics book, and they were talking about the whole survivor phenomenon, like the classic one of analyzing planes that made it back from bombing runs over Germany, and like the wings are all shot up and what have you, and they're thinking, oh, we need to armor the wings because, you know, obviously this is where they're getting most of the hits. And the scientist whose name escapes me right now is like, no. You're viewing it wrong. All of the planes that got shot down, these are the planes that made it back. They can fly back with this number of holes in their wings. Yep. You need to reinforce the engines because clearly that's what's failing.
Yes. Notice all of the ones that made it back do not have bullet holes in the engines.
In the engine.
Yeah.
That would be.
And I think there was an area along the fuselage near the tail where it's like thinnest that there were like no bullet holes there. Because if bullets went through there, the tail would shear off and then the plane crashes. So Yeah. So that's
Yeah, so
that's
I
my
agree
theory.
with you.
That's my theory about Prey and all the other Predator movies is we're only viewing the ones that are like Fargo-esque to actual predators. It's like they're
Yeah,
cautionary tales for predators.
the Predators kind of have it coming. I mean, they just show up. It's like big game hunting, right? Like they have all the advanced weaponry. Like they're not. How well are you actually proving yourself if you've got like all these super weapons?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You know, like
I mean, if you have missile launchers and you had somebody covered in mud running through a jungle, there's not a big like effort there.
yes. So the last thing I want to watch, I don't think you've seen it yet either. But correct me if I'm wrong. Is Rings of Power,
I
the
have not.
new Lord of the Rings series? I have fallen into I shouldn't say a trap, because that my wife might listen to this podcast and take it the wrong way. I asked my wife, "Hey, do you want to watch the new Lord of the Rings series that's on Prime?" And she said, "Yeah, I think that'd be great. I'd watch an episode or two, and if we like it, we'll watch it together." I'm like, "Cool." So now we're waiting to figure out when we can actually watch it. My youngest goes to college in like 2.5 years, so at the very least, we should be able to see it then.
Nice.
There's a chance we'll see it sooner. A chance.
Nice. I have heard a little bit about it, mostly the stupid, and I will call it stupid, controversies of like the casting of elves not being all lily white. It's like you guys are idiots. I'm just gonna say I'll say it straight out. I don't know if I want to watch Rings of Power or not because it's based on the Silmarillion, and I've tried to read the Silmarillion.
Yes,
and it's not easy.
No,
like there are people who've done it, and they are truly dedicated to Lord of the Rings fandom, and I am not that dedicated.
I am not either. I have to hope that it is more engaging than the Silmarillion. I gave up.
I would imagine it would be because they've got actual screenwriters who are interpreting that area.
Yes.
But I imagine if anyone wants it to be exactly like the book, they will be sorely disappointed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not the Bible. So, it's.
Yeah. I'm also a little burned on The Hobbit. Like the fact that they turned a book that's maybe a 1/2-inch thick paperback into 3 full movies when they did like the original Lord of the Rings trilogy as long as it. It's like how do you do that? And so I'm a little skeptical. So I'm gonna wait till I hear people have actually watched it and liked it before I jump in.
Fair. So speaking of things that we would like to watch in the future, Peripheral came out on Prime. Now this is based on the William Gibson book.
Yes.
I have not actually read this book. It's one of the few recent Gibson books I haven't read.
I
was within the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, I wasn't aware that he'd I wasn't, which is unfortunate because I wasn't aware that he had kept writing, like that he had put out more books, which is very sad because I would have bought them or read them. So yeah, it's recent. I don't know if it was like the last couple years or the last 10 years, but even the last 10 years is still past when I saw it. But I saw the trailer. It looks pretty good. It looks kind of like at the beginning of kind of like the jacking in sort of idea.
Yes.
So prior to something like Neuromancer.
Yes, it's definitely not from what I saw of the trailer, which I just watched today. I would agree. It feels like it's on the beginning of the cyberpunk dystopia. The book came out in 2014, it turns out.
Okay. Yeah.
So
8 years ago.
Been a bit. I believe he has released additional books since then.
Yeah.
But I too have not been keeping up on my Gibson. So I have been sorely tempted just because you've been talking about cyberpunk so much to go back and read Neuromancer. But
yeah, I would need to find my copy if I still have it. Another one that I saw that was coming out on Prime, or I believe is out on Prime, is The Samaritan, which is more along the lines of a superhero movie. It's kind of like Unbreakable, I think, in terms of like pseudo concept. It's Sylvester Stallone. There's this kid who lives in a area. His neighborhood isn't super great. At least that's what I remember of the trailer. His neighborhood isn't super great. One of his neighbors in the neighborhood is Sylvester Stallone, who he has become convinced is a superhero who disappeared or retired 25 years ago. And so he's trying to bring Sylvester Stallone back out of retirement so that he can fight crime in his neighborhood. It looks kind of fun, kind of interesting. The reason why I say it looks like Unbreakable is because in the trailer, I have not seen Sylvester Stallone use any superpowers. Right. So in fact, I see him being beat up a lot. so I don't know. But it looks interesting. It looks fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I have heard about it. And so it sounds interesting. I like Sylvester Stallone. So it's been a while since I've seen him in anything. I think the last thing I saw was it Prison Break? No. Prison Break was the TV series. There was a movie that he is a guy locked up in an unescapable maximum security prison.
Oh, that was a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, which he must then break out of. So that's probably the last Sylvester Stallone movie that I have seen. But
gotcha. Yeah, I think the only other ones were one of the ones with Sylvester Stallone and a whole bunch of other action heroes as
The Expendables.
The Expendables. I think The Expendables 3, I think, was the last one I saw with him in it.
That's probably the last one I saw too. I don't know. They're of an age. So
yeah. Yep.
So I've been contemplating, as I mentioned in the last podcast, going to MEPACon, which is my local area convention, which is moving down the Lehigh Valley, which is going to be great. So I need to remember to register for it this week. And in part for registering for it, I've been thinking about what games I want to run. Sometimes I bite off more than I can chew here because I love to run games. And so I'll often want to run 3 games, but then I don't have time to prep for 3 games.
That could be a problem.
That could be a problem. So if you're writing the night before, that's usually not a great sign. So what I'm contemplating is running some stuff that has, like, maybe I only have to write 1 game and then find some stuff that's got some like short adventures or basically con ready adventures to go with. So for example, Mothership, I backed the Kickstarter. It may even be here before MEPACon. I don't know. But they've got like these little pamphlet one shots that seem to me like they would lend themselves well to a convention. Morkborg, I would have my shelf behind me. That's a little different because it's pretty dark. Yep. And so I think you need to find, for a pre-gen, you need to find something that's like, it can get into really deep into the death metal thing. So like if you're running around wearing other people's eyes or something, you don't know what audience you're going to get at a con. So finding something that maybe can capture the feel of Morkborg without getting into
the feel of Morkborg.
the feel of Morkborg. Yeah. I don't know that it's a great con game, but I would be curious. Like it's the advantage is it's lightweight and it's should be fairly easy to run. Yeah. And I think that if you set the tone correctly, you could have fun with it. But.
You may like if you decide to run it, you may say, hey, at the beginning, hey, we're going to use the X card here and describe the X card and go, like if people start stomping on eyeballs and that's a problem for people, then you can back away from that and yet still have the heavy metal feel. So
yes, and I think it would be an appropriate use of it because it's a communal area, right? Like it's a community area. There's also the people in the tables next. Even if everybody at the table is cool with it, like the table next to you might not be cool with it. So like you want to keep it. I don't know. Morkborg and PG-13 seems wrong, but in any case, yes, I think being able to kind of call out, like it may just be problematic because if you get a person who goes, "Oh, I've always wanted to play Morkborg and I wanted to wear the skin of my dead enemies," I don't need to make it family friendly, but it probably needs to not be overtly gross.
Right.
Mutant Crawl Classics is also one I would like to run. We've talked about it before.
Yep.
I would like to run. I was actually thinking of writing an adventure for it just based on the hook Beyond the Funnel, because I'm tired of like playing funnel bait. Like it seems like all of the Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics games that I've played in have always been the funnel. I want to get beyond the funnel,
right,
and actually do like third level characters who can do stuff,
right, and yet still die.
And then and yet still die. So come up with some interesting mutant powers. Maybe have a ginormous like funnel as a postmodern, relic that you actually literally have to go beyond the funnel.
Yeah.
So it's an old radio telescope in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
That works. So those are the game. The key thing I'm thinking of. It's games that these are games that I might not have a chance to run before I run them at the con. Mm-hmm. So having a lightweight rule set that I can understand beforehand and have like a cheat sheet and be able to run the game in say 3 hours so that you can pause if you need to walk through a particular rule or something like that, right? Like give people a little bit of wiggle room, right? Time to ask questions, that kind of thing.
I do have a suggestion for you.
I would love to hear it.
How big is MEPACon?
That's a good question. It's I'd say these days probably around 100 people.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is like, would you have the same people at your table for all 3 games?
No.
Okay. So here is one suggestion, which may or may not have occurred to you. Only prep 1 game and run it 3 times.
But I want to play 3 different games.
I know.
Yeah, no, that's a good because you get better at it with each iteration.
Yeah, and each one will be different because you have different people sitting down with you, and they'll make different choices.
Yeah, I need to pitch it to my group too. A lot of times, what we'll do to make sure that our games run is amongst ourselves figure out who's actually going to be at the con, and then we pick the games that we know that we want to play, and then I know that I'm going to have at least 2 players. Right. And then if I pick up 2, I'm good. Because to do all the because it's a small enough con that, you're probably going to have a lot of games that there's a fair number of games that don't run.
Got it.
I've had like 2 out of my 3 games not run. Right. And so this strategy of making sure that I'm running games that my players want to play is helpful. Right. Yes. Especially because then you show up and you've got names like this is like it's old school game convention, right? Like the last time I was there, and I think this is still true, they just had the sign-up sheets, right? And so you walk up and you put your name on the sign-up sheet. If you see that there's 2 names there already, it's like, okay, well, I'm number 3, right? Whereas if there's no names there, I'll go on to the one that's got 3 names, right? So,
Yep, very true, very true.
If people have suggestions for good, like lightweight games to run at cons, let me know. I would appreciate the feedback, and this episode will be out before I get to MEPACon. It's in November. It's like middle of November.
Assuming we get that edited properly in time.
Assuming. The other thing, the other thing that occurred to me is like we might be able to do session zeros of these with our group, right? Like that I can do a test run, right? Because if it's only like a 2.5 to 3 hour game, like it would be a good opportunity to.
Sure.
I suspect I will be able to find volunteers who would want to run.
So. Yep. Well, I mean, we were still playing Spelljammer stuff, but I'm willing to give over. I think we've got the idea of Spelljammer. I think that's fun, but I think if we wanted to do one of these as an episode 0 or as like a play test of your con game, this way you would get people who wouldn't be at MEPACon,
right?
So you wouldn't cannibalize your possible players.
Exactly,
we could do that. So
this is an idea. We'll see.
Yep.
So you got a new toy.
I did get a new toy. I got a new toy. It's weird. So I ordered a Steamdeck a long time ago, February or March or whatever, because that's how long the pre-order was, and I just got it this week. And I've been playing around with it a little bit. I don't have a lot to really say about it yet. Like, it's part of the reason I got it was I work from home. My office is here. My work computer is right here, and my gaming computer is right here. And even if you're listening to this on a podcast, it's the same right here. So I was kind of getting burned out about just being in my office for, 8 hours a day for work, and then immediately staying in my chair or leaving and coming back to do some gaming or other things like that. And so one of the reasons I got the Steam Deck was so that I wouldn't be in my office while playing a game.
Gotcha.
And so far that is accomplishing that task. I've been, I figured a good test of it would be Lego Star Wars. So I've been running around. I started a new game that's separate from the one that my daughter and I were playing together. Just started a brand new game and just have been running around in it and playing it. Controls are really nice. The screen is really good quality. It gets very warm in certain areas. It doesn't get warm to hold or anything like that, but it definitely, the heat radiates out the top vent pretty heavily. So like if I'm cold in the winter, I'll just play the Steam Deck in a small room and I'll get warm. And so I played around with it a little bit. Looked at desktop mode. It allowed me to install Chrome. So if I want to watch a movie on it, I can just bring up Netflix on Chrome and watch through there. There are a fair number of games that are basically Steam Deck ready. I'm going to try out Cyberpunk 2077 on there, even though it's not like Steam Deck certified. You can play it on there, but there are some warnings that come with it. So I kind of want to try it out. Yeah. But yeah, I've liked it. It's good so far. It is really big. It is, I would say, 2 times thicker than a Switch.
Oh,
and about 2 inches longer than a Switch. So it's like holding a steering wheel almost.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it's got some heft.
It does have some heft to it. And the joysticks and stuff do not detach or anything like that. It's one big unit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've liked it. I got there are 3 levels of Steam Deck, and knowing that video games are going to get more intensive, and the ones I have are not lightweight. If I'm talking like Cyberpunk 2077 or even Skyrim, if I want to play any of those on there, I got the higher end one, which is, I think, the same graphics and everything like that, but like the storage medium is bigger and faster, and so it just worked out that way. So, and it has a slightly different screen protection thing going on there. So
gotcha.
I think it'll be worth it. We'll see. It's about the same cost as like a Xbox One or a PS5. So I'm hoping it will last as long as one of those. So we'll see.
Yeah, my Xbox One's still kicking. Keep waiting for it to die. So I came across this random thing. I've been trying to up my game when it comes to listening to podcasts, because my summer reading list, although I have not completed my summer reading list, I've kind of downshifted a little bit from the intensity that I was doing during the summer. And so I'm listening to more stuff. And so I was listening to the latest episode of Daydreaming
about dragons.
About dragons.
Yes.
Always get it wrong. Daydreaming about dragons. And Judd Carlman talked about character backgrounds and people loving to write the big expansive backgrounds, but also talking about like the idea of a very short background, as in a haiku. And I thought that was fascinating. And if I had just a little bit more time, I would have tried to write a haiku for Knie Godfinder, who's my current D&D character. I thought it was a fascinating idea. He has some examples on his website. I'll link to it from the show notes.
Oh yeah. It's
a cool idea, right? Like 3 lines, right? Makes you think about the key things that are like the core aspects of your character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and his suggestion was find a photo or like a picture that depicts your character, and then use that as the inspiration for writing your haiku. I don't know if it's really mandatory, right? But like, I just liked the idea of like taking that time, just that little bit of time, to come up with a vision of your character.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I heard that episode as well. It is hard to do a haiku.
Well, that's the thing. It is hard.
Like, you can do a haiku, I mean, it's, what is it? 575 in terms of
something like that.
The problem is not that form. It's having it make sense. and like giving and not having the haiku be evocative. I was about to say descriptive, but evocative enough to make you like have an entire world's entire character history blossom in your head just from hearing that haiku.
Right.
It's a little intimidating.
It is. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, I thought it was cool. And I think, I mean, just from my thinking, like, I don't know, I would go and read these to my gaming group, but I like the idea of coming up with them as like inspiration for who your character is, even if it's not a very good haiku, and it is 575.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so I thought, you know, and it stretches your brain. I think that's the thing I love about gaming and role-playing games in general, is that anybody can write a couple of pages. Well, maybe not everybody.
No.
It's easy enough for me to sit down and pound out backstory. Not so easy to sit down and write 3 lines of haiku.
Well, it's like the difference between, you know, writing a ton of prose, but then condensing that down into a short story is hard. You know, editing and making something short is almost always harder than to have something huge and expansive. You know,
yes.
Your economy of words is is essential. Just because it's hard and intimidating doesn't mean you shouldn't try and make hundreds, make several bad haikus, because you're going to get better at it the more you do it. And maybe one of the ones you do, you really like, you know, that's great.
Right.
Yeah. I like the idea. You would spend more time thinking about the haiku than it would take to actually put pen to paper and write it down.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, and it's like, if it's 15 minutes or half an hour thinking about your character, I think that's the part that, like, as he was talking about it, just really appealed to me, right? Like, just gives you an opportunity to just kind of think and be creative at the same time.
Yeah. And I think it kind of, to me, it hits like when you're creating aspects for Fate, you know?
Yes.
Like,
yes, very much so.
Like, strongest man around is kind of a aspect. Like, it's an aspect, but like, you know, it's hard. I'm trying to think of one, like winner of the bull wrestling at Palouse, you know, is more evocative of like, well, what's Palouse? What's the bull wrestling at Palouse? You know, like, there's a whole bunch more there that could be part of that aspect, you know, and it is not just about strength at that point either. Right. And so,
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. The haiku fits that niche for me.
Yes. I think it's a very similar, now that you mentioned, it's a very similar exercise, right? And we ran our Fate game, right? Like, coming up with, I think one of my edges was, or one of my aspects was, I can hit the broadside of a barn, mm-hmm. right? And I liked where I got my head thinking, well, on the one hand, that means I'm not a very good shot. On the other hand, I could hit the broadside of a barn.
Right, right.
Which occasionally is appropriate. So
and we could even have like taken those aspects and made them even more evocative or whatever. Like sometimes those aspects give hints of like antagonists in the story as well. And I'm sure that the haiku could perform that same sort of fashion. Right. I like it. I don't know if I'll have the brain power to do it anytime soon. Maybe in a few weeks, which I'll tell you about next episode. So yeah, I might have to do it for Kani. I don't know. For some reason, I think Kani and haiku just go hand in hand. Kani is a cleric of many gods. He's a pantheonic worshiper of all of the Forgotten Realm gods, because he just picks whichever god is most appropriate for the situation. Sure. And Kani, his name is actually how I always misspell my name when I'm typing too fast. So nice. I imagine it to be like a kind of rambly haiku with some misspelled words. So it would be Kani. It just, I don't know. It got me thinking. So, yeah. And I could totally see that happening in like Cyberpunk 2077 with, you know, some of the factions that you deal with and such. So like, I could totally see one of the Edge Runner players having like a haiku that they're known by. So. Right.
Right. So if you have haikus for your characters, we would love to hear them. So you can send them to us. So, we love feedback. So you can send it to us at podcast@lairofsecrets.com or via Twitter. We're at Lair of Secrets there. We stream this live on Twitch. So if you want to get to fix things early and unedited with all of our bloopers, we are Lair of Secrets, one word over there. You can also visit lairofsecrets.com and leave us some feedback, topic ideas, your own thoughts on what we've talked about, and of course, your haikus. Thanks for listening, everybody.